Welcome to the Illuminati Clone Center. Sci-fi elevator opens up, leads into a sci-fi hallway. Walking, clip, 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 clip. We apparently have horseshoes on. Clip, clip, down the metal hallway. Hello, my name is Meredith, scientist here at the Illuminati Clone Center. Is that what you actually call it? The name of your super secret organization is in the name of the Clone Center? Yes, we've been meaning to change that, but we've been so busy. Look to your left. You can see all of these celebrities that we have cloned. Look at them. They've all been cloned. Even the lame ones, especially the lame ones, you idiot. We have to clone them all. Oh, that's interesting. Do you mind if I take a Britney Spears clone home? We have one ready for you, Mr. Carpenter. Oh, sweet, dude. This is going to be an awesome episode. Clip, 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 clip. Hey, what's this? Oh, don't worry about that, Mr. Carpenter. We'll keep walking. No. I want to see. It looks like some sort of gladiator arena. Are you guys cloning people and making them fight in the arena? Sexy scientist, I should have said that earlier. Sexy scientist adjusts her glasses, unbuttons her blouse a bit. And she's trying to distract us, but we are investigators. We're not going to be distracted by her sexy scientist outfit. She goes, I can't show you the arena. Why not? Because that belongs to Donald Marshall. He's a legend of the arena. He's a legend of music. And he is our greatest enemy. And you will find out about them today. Let me finish it. Meredith, let me finish the intro. And you will find out all about clones today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Yesterday, I loved the episode. I go, hey man, I ran out of time to talk about clones. And the episode is one of my shortest episodes ever. I think it clocks in around 22 minutes. I ended up trying to do the clone stuff, at least the first half of it, and it went way over, and then by the time I had chopped everything out, it was a very, very short episode. So today we're actually going to be a clone special. It's going to be a little bit longer to make up for the short episode yesterday. Also, just to give you guys a heads up, I'm going to do this episode, the Halloween episode, so that episode comes out on October 31st, and then that'll be it for the week. So we're going to have 4 episodes this week. But we're going to have a special today, we're going to have an extra long special tomorrow as well, and then we're going to just go into the weekend. So there's only going to be 4 episodes this week. And also, once again, if you are in the area, Halloween night, 9:30 p.m., my buddy's band Sundiver is doing a album release party at River City Saloon here in Hood River. So if you got nothing else to do on Halloween and you want to come down to party with me and listen to some great music, I will be there. Swing on by. I'm also thinking about doing some sort of like live stream, Instagram, YouTube thing. I guess I kind of got to figure out what I'm going to do. So if you guys, I just can't just hop on an app and start recording myself and then be like, hey, sorry, you guys didn't join in. Like, I guess I got to figure that out by tomorrow, what I'm going to do. But I think that would be cool. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with our clone saga. That's us going in an elevator. We're in the underground Illuminati cloning facilities. It's a very, very fancy Illuminati setup. So everything's like super slick metal and shiny silver, kind of that blue polished silver. It looks like the future. And we step out of the elevator, and first off, we're going to turn to our right, and we see clones of our latest Patreon subscribers. 2 little vials there. They're little infants. These are brand new clones. They're little, like, what are those things called? Incubators. So we're looking at the labels. One of them says Michael Hunt. Might be his real name. I don't know. I'm like, oh, look at little fetus. Breathing. I guess he's not breathing. What is it? What do you do when you're in embiotic fluid? I guess you breathe. But anyways, and then we go to the next one, and it's Debo, little baby Debo floating around in these clone chambers. So thank you, Debo, and thank you, Michael Hunt. You guys are now Illuminati clones. And hopefully you're not psychotic and you actually take that to heart. You're not really Illuminati clones, you're Patreons. But anyway, and listeners to the show. And if you can't support the Patreon, that's fine too. Just get the word out about the show. That really helps a lot as well. So let's go ahead and throw Michael Hunt and Debo in our backpacks because we don't want to leave them in this. We'll let them incubate at home. We don't want to leave them in this chamber of horrors that we're about to encounter. So we're going to continue walking through this Illuminati hallway. This illuminated Illuminati hallway. And we go down this alleyway, and we see a clone of Marshall Mathers, a.k.a. Eminem, a.k.a. Slim Shady. Just bloop, 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 just in this green fluid. And it's Faygo, ironically, and he's in it, and we're like knocking on it. We're like, Mr. Mathers, I actually got on Marshall Mathers, or Eminem, whatever you want to call him. I actually got on his tour bus. Me and these two girls were able to talk our way into sneaking on. I don't even know if we talked our way in. I think we just walked in. Because when I worked at Best Buy, they parked their tour bus when they were, I think it wasn't Up in Smoke. It might have been, or whatever Slim Shady's tour was at the time. This is back like in 98, 99. They parked their tour bus in the parking lot of Best Buy, and I remember me and these really two hot chicks walked up to it, and I was like, I think we did talk our way in. I think we'd go, hey, do you mind if we step inside? And because I'm with these two hot girls. They're like, yeah, sure. Now, we walk in. Oh, did we talk our way in? I don't remember. Anyway, we just teleported into this bus, and while we're in the bus, and it was just like a really nice tour bus, one of the bodyguards goes, because there was two guys on the bus. We had to have talked our way in. Anyways, one of the bodyguards, or one of the roadies, or whatever you want to say, they were really big, so I'm assuming they were bodyguards. One of them goes, I'm Eminem's dad. And I go, that's not true. Eminem hasn't seen his father in years. I don't think he even knows who his father is. And the bodyguard looks at me and goes, whoa, you're a nerd, dude. I was like, yeah, like I knew that much about Eminem at the time. I don't really follow him anymore. But anyways, and they're like, okay, guys, off the bus. They weren't on the bus at the time. There's no way we would have gotten on the bus if they were there. But we got to walk around Eminem's bus. If Eminem ever listens to this episode, or his clone does, he's probably going to fire his bodyguard. He's like, why'd you let some random dude walk on my bus? But yeah, it was just a random tour bus. It was the first tour bus I'd ever been in. But I mean, it wasn't like crazy. It wasn't like there was a stripper pole and weed everywhere. It turns out it was just like a Greyhound. But anyways, no, it was actually his tour bus. Anyways, we see Eminem's clone. And I go, oh, I've been on your tour bus. And he's all shaking his head. How did you get on my tour bus? And we let him out. We're all, psh, taking pickaxes that we brought with us for some reason. Well, I guess there's a reason to do this. Psh, break open the clone juice. And he comes out. He's like, thanks for letting me go. Although, to be fair, I'm only half cloned, so I don't know how much longer I'll live. I feel like my organs are going to fail. You don't let me incubate long enough. We're like, sorry, bro. We thought we were doing the right thing. And he goes, yeah, you kind of are. So, anyways, Eminem supposedly has been cloned. This is the story. Back in 2006, he died in a car accident, and then he got cloned because the music industry... You know, this is a really interesting thing. The theory is always this. A celebrity dies, or a celebrity gets killed because they go against the Illuminati's plans, and then they are replaced. Sometimes they're replaced with a lookalike. Sometimes they're replaced with a clone, depending on how stupid the person is believing in the theory. Because the idea of Miley Cyrus dying and then finding a girl who looks like Miley Cyrus, that's believable. That's not true, but it's believable. The idea of Miley Cyrus getting, dying, murdered, whatever, and then them cloning her, that's completely ridiculous. But Jason, they clone cats and dogs. They clone cats and dogs, but they are not clones in the idea of The Sixth Day, which is a great clone movie, by the way. Let's see if I can sneak in some Dead Rabbit recommends. And Sixth Day is a really, really good movie about cloning. One of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best films, honestly. Totally, I really, really enjoy that movie. But anyways, they clone your cat and your dog, but your cat and your dog, it's not the same dog. It may look like the same dog, but it's not the same dog. And and this is a weird thing about cloning too, they figured this out with Dolly the sheep. If you take an animal that's 10 years old, that's actually really old. If you take an animal that's 5 years old and you clone it, that animal, when it's born, will be a tiny little baby animal, but it will have the genetic makeup of something that is already 5 years old. And that was the problem they were running into with Dolly the sheep. Yes, it doesn't come out of the womb already 5 years old, but it's like, its body will start breaking down like a 5-year-old kitten's would. So you have to clone. The only way you could really clone cats and dogs and make them completely healthy is to clone them at birth and keep them in jars. And then that way, when that one dies, you can have another one. Because if you're taking hair off a 10-year-old cat and you're putting it in a baby cat, that cat is going to have like 2 years left. 3 years left. The baby will only live 2 or 3 years. Anyways, you can't really clone a human is what I'm saying. As the technology is right now. You just can't do it. You could... No, you just can't do it. There's really no wiggle room for that right now. And if you were able to, it wouldn't have the same personality. You wouldn't be able to replicate all of that stuff. It may look like them, but if you cloned Eminem at 40, you're going to have a baby that's going to have the health problems of a 40-year-old. It's not going to be like, oh, I need a cigarette. It's going to be, its genetic makeup is going to be that of an adult male who's 40. So, heart's not going to be the healthiest, stuff like that. Knees are going to hurt. Stuff that would break down, that's not necessarily a issue with, like, wear and tear on the body. It's just an issue of, like, cell division type of things. So, it wouldn't work. But anyways, so these lunatics believe that Eminem died in 2006, and he's actually, what we're looking at is a clone. It's not true, but people believe it. And one of the things is they go, look at these pictures of, here's a picture of Eminem back when he did Encore. And here's a picture of Eminem back when he was dissing the President of the United States, which was, 2 years ago when he did that video on BET? Look at these faces. They're different people. They're all... People age. And I think this is a fascinating thing, too. A lot of times people go, look at this young, sexy picture of Avril Lavigne when she's like 22. Now look at this gross photo of Avril Lavigne when she's in her 30s. She's still a beautiful woman, but they'll go, she doesn't look the same. And a normal, rational person goes, of course not. One of them is 10 years younger. When people change, fatty deposits move around in their face, they get skinnier or fatter. But I think this actually points to some sort of glitch in the way we see ourselves. I look in the mirror, and I don't feel that I look any differently than I did 10, 15 years ago. I've lost weight, and I can see that's very obvious when I look in the mirror. I'm like, oh, like I can tell I've lost weight. But on the other hand, when I was looking in the mirror all the time, I couldn't tell that I was gaining weight when I was putting on tons and tons of pounds. So I think there's some sort of mental block in our heads that keep us from seeing long-term changes in our body that we don't want. Because I want to see weight loss. Because I'm on that weight loss journey. So when I look in the mirror, I want to see that. If you're on a weight gain journey, if you're lifting weights, you're going to look for every single muscle that's getting a little bit bigger. So I think, now obviously if I look at a picture of me when I'm 20, I can go, whoa, I look like a 10-year-old boy in that photo. But if I don't remember like looking in the mirror and I don't remember looking in the mirror and looking like that guy. I think it's a weird mental trick. So, but when I look at other people walking down the street, I go, oh, this person has aged since the last time I saw him. They're like, dude, you only saw me 5 minutes ago. I was like, yeah, I know, it was a rough 5 minutes for you, wasn't it? I can tell, obviously, when I look at people that they've aged. So, I can understand humans' age. It's a timeline issue. But to someone who's already suffering from some sort of delusion that clones exist and the Illuminati has these giant underground cloning centers, and they have that glitch where they look in the mirror and they go, well, I don't age. And I'm looking at a photo of Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne still is really hot. It's kind of weird. Maybe she is some sort of clone. But the issue is, can they, like, I don't think they can make that distinction. Like, I don't age, this person's aging, therefore this person must have been replaced by a thing. But what's interesting is this whole, so this really all recently started. The story came back that he died in 2006, but the story about him being a clone came out, oddly enough, I think it's all viral marketing that simply got out of hand. Tom Macdonald is a rapper, and he released a song called Cloned Rappers. And he's talking about rappers being cloned, and the Illuminati's taking them, and you can do it to a cat, you can do it to a dog, so you can do it to a human, blah, blah, blah. And then it just kind of goes on. The video is him escaping from an Illuminati breeding center, cloning center. One of the most poorly acted videos I've ever seen in my life. The song itself is pretty good. The song itself is decent, but the video is so poorly acted, you'd think it was done on purpose, but it's done so earnestly, I don't think so. Hilarious. Watch the video. It's going to be in the show notes. that video inspired a bunch of people to go, oh, because he mentions Eminem by name as a rapper who has been cloned. And then all these articles started popping up. Is Eminem a clone? Da, 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 da. I think it's viral marketing. I think that there obviously are idiots out there who believe people are cloned, but I think that Tom Macdonald released this song, and then honestly, I think as people started planting these articles, and then it kind of took off. Because it's just one, and I could be wrong on that. I could be having too much faith in humans that they didn't hear this one line and then organically start to believe this stupid theory. I believe that someone had to push it, but I could be wrong on that. Now, the interesting thing about Tom Macdonald, this song, is that you can take it one of two ways. You can take it literally, that Illuminati is kidnapping people and cloning them, and that's the reason why these artists have changed or sold out, is because they're actually clones. The other one is just, when you reach a certain level of success, you sell out and you're no longer the artist you used to be. So it could be an allegory as well. It can work on both ways. So I think that he went out and did clone rappers with the intention of being confusing about what he's talking about. So again, on an artistic level, it's very, very interesting. On a level of people actually believing this stuff, well, it's interesting. That's interesting too. It's slightly dangerous, but it's interesting as well. What I think is fascinating is when I was delving into the world of clones. This is going to be a long episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. While I was delving into the world of clones, we get into all of this stuff about artists being cloned. Like, you have Eminem, who used to be like, yo, I'm a rapper, I'm a white dude. I don't know why he's from the Bronx all of a sudden. He's doing all that stuff, and then his music it's not as aggressive as it used to be. I think my biggest problem with Eminem nowadays is that it's all about the fast rapping. When you listen to his old stuff, it was just like very relatable. You could listen to it as you were drinking a 40, hanging out at a party. And now it's like, look how good I am, look how fast I can go, and I'm just not into that stuff. But when you look at there is a difference between his music, and I get it. He stopped using drugs, and he's gotten older. And your music, your art is going to change. But the clone stuff usually comes from your career, how you started off, you're different now. Miley Cyrus used to be a bubblegum pop star. Now she's a sexy, sexy singer, singing about sex and sexy stuff. Must have been cloned. Well, no, you grow, you're under contract with Disney. You can't do that type of stuff. What I think is interesting is Demi Lovato. She started off with the Disney Channel. She's had her own issues with substance abuse. But I remember reading early interviews with her when she was still at Disney Channel. And she said she liked listening to, like, hardcore rock music. Not like, hardcore might not be the right one, but she would talk about liking to listen to dark music. Dark rock music, I think was the terminology. But she was under contract to do Disney. So she couldn't do that stuff. And now that she's a pop star, she's still doing that stuff. She's not out there, growling into the mic for Cannibal Corpse, but she might want to. But, that wouldn't fly. Maybe when she's like in her 40s, she'll do that. But my point is that the careers that people have, especially when they're young, don't always reflect who they are. So as they get older, as they get more power in the industry, they may start to change things up. Doesn't mean that they're cloned. But we see that a lot. You used to believe that you used to be this, and now you're a clone. And it's not just that. It's that you're a clone for the Illuminati, and now you're spreading the Illuminati messages. I remember when Eminem had his comeback, he had his recovery. I think that was the name of one of his albums, actually. But when he was actually going through recovery from opioid addiction, when he came back, he was one of his album covers, it wasn't his album cover, it was like publicity for this album coming out. He was doing the devil horn hand signal, and he was holding it up to his forehead. And at the time that was going on, I was really involved in the conspiracy theory community. I was on like Godlike Productions, Above Top Secret, all of this stuff. Constantly researching conspiracy theories. I believed in a lot more of them. And everyone lost their mind when he did this. Because, see, Eminem was considered like a soldier against the Illuminati. Eminem was speaking the truth. Eminem was one of the good ones. It was kind of the general consensus among conspiracy theorists at the time. He hadn't sold out to the Illuminati. It's kind of weird. That was the Britney Spears. That was the Christina Aguilera's. That was them. Eminem was one of us. And now, at this point in time when this is coming out, I was starting to realize how stupid everything was. But I remember when I saw that photo, I thought, ooh. People are not going to like that. And it started a huge debate on Godlike Productions. Godlike Productions is probably one of the premier conspiracy theory forums. The Nobody, the meme going around about the Nobody, we may cover that at some point, but the Nobody is this idea that there is an individual among us, a nobody, a person with no notable achievements, who the Illuminati is deadly afraid of. And that's been going around 4chan for a couple months now, and that's taken over 4chan. People want to find out who the nobody is. Really, the trick is to trick you into thinking you're the nobody, because there's this vague list of descriptors, and it's like, he may not even know who the nobody is. He may not know how powerful he is, and blah, blah, blah. So people sitting there go, oh my God, maybe I'm the nobody. Maybe I'm special. Maybe I don't just work at Denny's. Maybe I'm destined to fight the Illuminati. And I meet up with the Woman of Scars, who is this other character who shows up in this mythology. All of that started on Godlike Productions. There was a forum on Godlike Productions said the Illuminati was given an offer they couldn't refuse, I think was the name of the forum. And it started this story about there's a guy named the Nobody who was confronted by the Illuminati, and he did something to them. And it was so vague that it could have been you walking through the supermarket and someone walk up to you and says, ooh, nice avocados. And then you turn and you're like, what? And then the person, it was written to be so vague that you could see yourself as the Nobody. Probably one of the greatest modern myths going on right now. I think it'll only get bigger and bigger as time goes on, because I thought it was over with. That is from like 2008, 2009, the Nobody. And now it's gotten now there's just this huge resurgence on 4chan, and it's just going from there. But anyways, so Godlike Productions, the number one forum, really, for conspiracy theory. It's actually also the most patrolled, and I don't mean that by outside CIA, FBI. It's one of the most heavily modded paranormal conspiracy forums out there, and I think the reason it's so modded, there's a lot of conspiracy theories of why it's so modded. Some people believe that it is controlled by the government. Some people believe it's controlled by some corporate entity. But anyways, the fact that it's so modded, I actually think helps it, because it gets rid of all of the garbage stuff, like Our Butthole's Paranormal, that type of stuff we see on 4chan. It doesn't have that stuff. But anyway, so, all that being said, where was I going with that? What was I talking about? Oh, Godlike Productions, Eminem, devil horns on his head. They flipped out. And there were some people who are like, no, he's pretending to be one of them. He's going to destroy him from the inside. The amount of Eminem fans, there's like a Venn diagram of Eminem fans and conspiracy theorists. It used to be really, really like there was a huge connection between those two, but until recent. And they were like, no, he's going on the inside. He's going to fight him from the inside. He's still one of us. And other people were like, no, he's sold out. He's doing the devil horns. He's no better than Rihanna and Jay-Z. Then it became the Eminem that we loved, the Eminem that we knew must have died. Must have been dead. And this is his clone. But again, there's no evidence to that. There's no science to back any of that up at all. But I think it's interesting, and I'm going to say this, and then we're going to move on to our final segment, because this episode is running really long, even longer than I thought it was going to. We see people cloned because they're different than who they used to be. And the Illuminati clones them because they can't control them, and they're going to use them for nefarious purposes. What I find, and I'm not getting political here, but what I find interesting is one of the people who seems to have changed the most in recent times is President Donald Trump. Like, if you go back just 10, 15 years, his mannerisms, his physical appearance has radically changed. It's bizarre. Now, I get it. Like I've said, people get older. People change. If you watch an interview of him, like that interview of him doing that with Oprah, and it was like 20 years ago or something like that, looks like a completely different person. Sounds like a completely different person. But even watching The Apprentice, you can see the in-between between the Oprah Trump and President Trump. You see like that in-between there. But still seems very, very, very different person. So why aren't there conspiracy theories that Donald Trump is a clone? I found one, and it never really gained traction. And I think it points to the reason. I think it points to the conspiracy behind clones in general. The people who are saying that the clones are being created by the Illuminati But Donald Trump is considered to be someone who fights against the Illuminati, who fights against the deep state and all of these power structures. It's weird because if anyone is proof of radically changing their personality, speech patterns, and physical appearance in a short period of time, it's him. But to believe in cloning, you have to believe in the Illuminati. And to believe in not if you're a cloning scientist, but I mean, obviously, if we're talking about this, if you want to believe in people being replaced by clones, then you have to believe in the Illuminati. And the Illuminati is the bad guy. But Donald Trump is considered one of the good guys against the Illuminati. So it all falls apart. And that's the problem with conspiracy theories. You should be, as a conspiracy theorist, to have to, like any historian or scientist or anything, has to look at their evidence every so often and go, oh, this new piece does not work. If the fact that Eminem has slightly higher cheekbones now than he did 20 years ago means he is a clone, but everything from Donald Trump's speech pattern to the way that he looks has changed radically over the past 20 years in that same time span. But he's not a clone? Either you're totally wrong, Eminem's not a clone, nobody's clones, and you've been wasting your time believing in this stuff, or he's a clone as well. Now, I'm not saying he's an Illuminati puppet. He could be. I don't know. I don't think he's a clone. Let me make sure that's on the table. I don't believe he's a clone. It's just weird. Now, if Donald Trump ever did the devil horn signs, like on his forehead, or did anything to make people think that he was compromised by the Illuminati, within a heartbeat, people would be saying, I knew he was cloned all along. I just think it's weird how conspiracy theories have been completely compromised like that. And it really should show you how ridiculous all of this stuff is. Because again, if in science you have a bucket and you have a fish and then you throw another fish in, that analogy's stupid. You guys understand what I mean. You have two ideas of people who have radically changed over the past 20 years. One person, because he put up devil horns on his head, is an Illuminati clone because some rapper said he's an Illuminati clone sent to destroy us and enslave us. And the other guy, who changed radically over 20 years, was elected president of the United States against all odds. He's not a clone. That is 100% a legit human accomplishment. Very, very weird behavior. Because obviously, if I was going to clone somebody, I'm going to put all my money and resources into somebody who can actually do stuff. Not who can sit on a couch and play Xbox and then go, oh, I got to record an album, and then go out record an album. I could not sneak onto Donald Trump's tour bus. If I can sneak on you, that's the new litmus test. If I can sneak onto your bus or get invited, again, I don't remember. If I can get onto your tour bus, you are not a clone. Let's go ahead and get started here with the main event. Let's go ahead and get started here with the reason why we're all here. And you're like, why am I here? I didn't know that. I thought that last segment was why I'm here. No. We're going to the arena. You hear this chanting. That's not chanting. That's a roar of a crowd. There we go. It's the late 70s, early 80s. And you're like, where did these bell bottoms come from? They just magically appear on you. I'm wearing a slick business suit, skinny tie. I'm like, we are in this late 70s, early 80s, and you got stuck with the late 70s part. And we see a arena. This is actually like the size of a hockey arena. Holds about 300, 400 people with a dirt floor in the middle. We're walking in. We're still in the underground cloning facility, by the way. This is all underground. So we're walking in, and there's a bunch of bodyguards, cloned bodyguards. We know they're cloned because they all look alike, and they're like, tickets. And we're like, dude, we're members of the Illuminati. We don't need tickets. And they're like, yes, that was the password. So we walk into the arena. And what we see in the arena is what you would expect to see in a gladiator arena. You see people stabbing each other. And then the sword comes up, cuts off an arm. Dude's like, yeah. No, he's not doing that. The crowd is doing that. Yeah. Guy turns around. The gladiator dude who was just using the sword turns around, faces us. It's a young John Travolta. We're like, what? That's kind of weird. Yeah. And then he leaves, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. So John Travolta was a gladiator combatant before he started Saturday Night Fever. And so we're sitting there, we wonder what the next fight's going to be. And then we see a gladiator guy come out, and he takes his helmet off. It's young John Travolta. And we're like, what? That sucks. Like, he just won that battle. Why is he fighting again? And then his opponent comes out, takes his helmet. I don't know why they're taking their helmets off before the fight. It's just something to do. Take the helmet off. That guy is also young John Travolta. And these clones are just ching, ching, fighting, doing dance moves, just skewering each other. The winner, John Travolta. Everyone's like kind of confused. They're like, eh. This is a cloned gladiator arena, and what happens is people are getting cloned to fight on a good day. There's also a lot of like just torture in the arena and a lot of rape. A lot of times people are being cloned and then raped in this arena. In the middle of this arena, though, they bring out a young 5-year-old boy. And at this point, we've already seen a lot of stuff. We've seen people just brought out and getting chopped up. We've seen sword fights. We've seen horrible stuff. And when they bring out a 5-year-old boy, we kind of look at each other and we're like, we should probably leave. Like, this is gross. And as we go to get up, we see a bodyguard being like, shaking his head at us, and we're like, okay, this is not good. Because we notice some other people in the stands are kind of terrified. Some people are really into it. And really, we probably should have left in the first place. We probably shouldn't have been in here in the first place. We still got Debo and Mike sitting in our backpacks, those little clones we stole. And we're like, you know what? This is kind of dangerous. We hope we don't get thrown in the arena ourselves. If we do, we'll just throw Debo and Mike in. We'll just throw them at people and splash all over their face. See you later, and then we'll bounce. But before we can do that, see a little 5-year-old boy led into the arena. And these guys come out. Now he's surrounded by 4 or 5 John Travoltas. He's surrounded by a bunch of clone gladiator warriors. They're going to come out, and they're going to start attacking him. And as they're moving through the gladiator arena with their swords held high, little boy is kind of cowering, and then he looks up and he goes, "Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone." And everyone's kind of looking at each other. We're like, what is this? "I hear you call my name, and it feels like home." The whole arena is silent. John Travolta, the army of John Travoltas look up and they're like, "What, are we supposed to hack this kid to death still? That was the most beautiful song we'd ever heard. Should we murder this boy?" And someone goes, "No, don't murder him. That was the most beautiful song I've ever heard as well. That is the boy of the golden songs. That boy. Bring him to me." So anyways, the boy gets brought to this person, and we find out that this guy, this boy, is named Donald Marshall. So what happens is he was cloned in this facility. Little Donald Marshall was cloned in this cloning facility. And every day they used to kill him, and then they would clone him back to life. And he would wake up and be like, "Oh, my guts!" And he'd look down and they'd be totally fine in his body. And he realized something. If he could sing a song on the spot, they would stop killing him. And then he started singing every song ever. Every song you've ever heard, for the most part, he's written. He hasn't written the lame ones. If you're a Michael Jackson fan, early Michael Jackson fan, this boy wrote them in an arena covered in human blood. Fan of Madonna, Like a Prayer, Like a Virgin, all that stuff, he wrote them. His first hit song when he was 5 years old, he wrote a song called Lady for Kenny Rogers. Never heard of it. He wrote it. There's actually a list of all the songs he's written online. He wrote Single Ladies for Beyoncé. You know, when at the end of the video when she that little wave motion? That's to him. Beyoncé met Donald later on and said, "I wanted to say thanks for writing that song for me." He wrote that. He also wrote a song. So he wrote a song, Single Ladies, for Beyonce, right? He also wrote a song called Monster for Boondocks, some southern rapper. So that makes sense. You know, I can see that. You write, Thriller. You write all the songs on Def Leppard's Pyromania. And then, why not write a song for Boondocks, a rapper that I'm sure a lot of my listeners have heard of. I've never heard of him. Have you ever heard of the famous song Duck Sauce by Barbra Streisand? I hadn't. I didn't even know that was a song. He wrote Duck Sauce for Barbra Streisand. I swear that's a typo on the website. I don't think that's a real song. Was your heart broken when you heard Gautier, Somebody That I Used to Know? You know, it's funny. I watched that music video for Gautier. The song's okay, but that music video, that girl, Kimbra, in that music video, looks like every ex-girlfriend I've ever had. And she doesn't. She doesn't look anything like every ex-girlfriend I've ever had. But in your mind, when you remember, except for the ex-girlfriends who were totally nuts, that you couldn't wait to ghost, like whenever your heart's broken, when I look back and think of that girl, they look exactly like Kimbra. And they don't. They're blondes or brunettes or redheads or whatever. They're tall or short. It doesn't matter. But Kimbra in that video looks like the soul essence of an ex-girlfriend. It's a very, very brilliant video. Kimbra's really good by herself, too. Unforgiven by Metallica. Great song. But don't worry, Metallica didn't write it. It's actually the life story of Donald Marshall. He also wrote Silent Lucidity by Queensryche, or for Queensryche. I forgot that song even existed. But anyways, he wrote all these songs, tons of them, in this arena, in this blood-soaked arena. So you go, that's stupid, Jason. Why are you wasting my time reading off a list of songs that obviously weren't written by one person? That's just the start of where we're going. It's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I recommended the movie Under the Silver Lake. I did recommend that movie, right? Under the Silver Lake, for Dead Rabbit Recommends. A huge plot point in that movie is that one person's written every song. And that movie is all about... It's a really good movie, but I thought that was an interesting connection. One person's pretty much written every song you've ever heard. But what happens to Donald Marshall is eventually he runs out of songs. They eventually stop, stabbing him, because he's able to bust out these songs. He writes them on the spot. So he's sitting there in the dirt and he's like, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies. And they're like, he comes up with this stuff on the spot. So they stop murdering him and cloning him. What happens is he ends up not coming out with any new good songs. So they throw him back in the arena and start stabbing him again. So that's where we're at now, of him getting stabbed again and again and again. Now, it's really weird reading his story. And this episode, like I said, it's going to be long because I'm going to go through some excerpts of what he's written. This is one of those guys that I really want to get into what he wrote himself, because just the way he puts things really shows where his mindset is. When you listen to him, I've watched YouTube videos with this guy. He seems very, very lucid. Hey guys, what's up? Donald Marshall here. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this Megadeth album cover. So anyways, let's go. Very, very normal speech pattern. But when you look at what propelled him to fame, this writing that propelled... This guy's quite famous in the conspiracy clonosphere. But anyways, he believes that Queen Elizabeth runs all this stuff. She's a boogeyman, and it's all rife with torture, rape, child abuse, murder, and so on and so forth. When you become famous, they will clone you, or can clone you, and if you do damage to the clone, it can actually do damage to who you are. So he's a clone, apparently, or he was raised in the cloning facility. It's, again, the ramblings of a madman, but he was cloned or raised in the cloning facility, but they still clone him, and they will torture the clone. And sometimes they torture him directly, and it's really hard to determine whether or not he's still in the cloning facility, because the YouTube video, he's obviously sitting on his couch in an apartment. But then he talks about, well, the other day I was down in the cloning facility. I'm thinking, why are you still alive? And he doesn't answer that question either. Let's take a look at, I gotta read this stuff. This is in 2011, he wrote a Facebook post that propelled him to fame. A lot of people believe in this. Elizabeth, it's Queen Elizabeth, secretly owns a few music companies, Universal and others, with bands under contract. She forces me while under the knife to compose music for them. And if I can't, she will stab my clone, burn me, have her pervert thug smash my body there. It's causing me some kind of heart damage and severe debilitating headaches. So, yeah, and so if you do damage to the clone, it damages you. So, as long as they have clones of you, you're kind of screwed. So, he was a hit maker, he was making all this music, getting cloned, and then getting tortured, and the music wasn't doing so well, so he's getting tortured, clones are getting tortured, all sorts of stuff. he eventually starts saying, I am going to reveal all to the world. I'm going to reveal that I am the songwriter everybody loves. There's a meme of him that says, oh, you like that song? You're welcome. And it's just a picture of him. And the meme has to be, I mean, I get that he's popular, but he's not that popular. It's hilarious. If I had just come across that meme in the wild, I'd been like, what is this? Oh, that song you like? You're welcome. I'll see if I can use that for my profile photo. I don't know if I can for copyright reasons, but it's hilarious nonetheless. So he says, I'm going to expose all of this to the world. And people are like, you better not. And it started a huge basic uprising in the arena, in the cloning facility. So here's part of his blog. Here's part of his note that he wrote on Facebook in 2011. One good person there, Bernie Mac comedian. And this is why I wanted to read it to you, because the grammar shows some serious issues. Now, I get it. You can have bad grammar and not be insane. But if you have bad grammar and you're believing in Bernie Mac clones, then you're probably insane. Okay, here we go. One good person there, Bernie Mac, comedian and actor, tried to stand up for me, speak up for me, saying it's not right to do to a human being. That sounds like at the beginning of a stand-up special. You know what's not right? Guys, you know what's not right to do to a human being? You can't clone them. Everyone's like, yeah, you can't clone a human being. So anyways, Bernie Mac tries to stand up for him. And this back to the quote here, tried to have others join him in speaking out against the clone torture zone while there. Elizabeth and Philip, that's Prince Philip, so Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip had him tortured so badly there as an example of their power, he had an aneurysm the next day and died. Now no one will speak up. They're all afraid of suffering the same fate. So now we know why Bernie Mac died. Because he was a good man trying to help out Donald Marshall. He gave his life in the what was it called again? The clone torture zone. He got up and gave this speech and he goes, you know what's not right? You know what's not right? Torturing a clone. And Donald Marshall's given us our best songs ever. You like that song? You're welcome. They just tortured his clone. Killed him in real life. He also knows how Princess Diana was killed. Here's the quote from his blog. Also, Elizabeth had Princess Diana Spencer killed by having someone shine the brightest light known to mankind through the window side onto the car. So, it's very easy to make someone die in a car crash. You don't have to use a sci-fi device. A simple bright light would do. If you're simply trying to blind somebody, you can just shine a flashlight in their face. They're like, and crash the car. You don't need to get the brightest light. Can you imagine them testing that device? Like, they're like, we need to kill the princess, but it has to go completely right. Let's build this. And someone shines in there like, you idiot. That's the second brightest light known to man. Make it the brightest. Nothing can go wrong here. I'm blind. There we go. I mean, basically, it would be the sun. And even if it was the brightest light known to man, I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure light can't exist with some sort of heat. So if it was the brightest light known to man, the heat would have been quite intense as well. But you have this device. It's foolproof, right? Shine the brightest light known to man through the window side on the car. They swerved away from it and hit the divider. It was no paparazzi. Diana survived, though, and while either on the way to the hospital or in the hospital, was injected with a high concentration of salt, which is near undetectable, and died. So it didn't even work. Why would you go through the trouble of building a device that is the brightest light known to mankind and then just be like, okay, plan B, just inject her with salt? Which I don't know if being injected with salt would kill you. It definitely would not be a fun afternoon, though. He's writing this letter, right? This is probably one of my favorite parts. He's writing this. Remember, this arena, he says, it can hold about 300 to 400 people. So it's not like this massive coliseum. So you figure, just world leaders and A-list actors, you easily have more than 400 people. Like, if you just took all the world, there's 250 countries on the planet, and I could be lowballing it, but if you had every world leader, just the presidents or prime ministers, you're already packed house. And then you figure there's going to be some senators in on this, Hillary Clinton's eating a baby in the corner, all sorts of stuff. So you figure it's going to be cream of the crop who are at this Coliseum, this murder clone, the clone torture zone. You figure it's only going to be cream of the crop. I got to this part of the article. This is probably my favorite part. Halfway through making this document. And when I read that, I thought, oh, please tell me he's making a documentary. No, he meant writing this document up. Halfway through making this document, they brought me there, so they were taking him back to the cloning facility, and introduced me to a man named Troy Landry. Now, before I start saying this, I do not believe that Troy Landry has done any of this. I don't know who Troy Landry is. He's a celebrity, but I don't watch the show. Do not try thinking that I actually believe Troy Landry, a guy that I've never ever seen, is somehow responsible for these acts. Okay. Don't beat me up, Troy. He introduced me to a man named Troy Landry. He is an alligator trapper from Louis. That was a weird way to pronounce that. He's an alligator trapper from Louisiana on the TV program Swamp People. I remember it was so funny. I remember once me and my little brother were flipping through the channels. Just a couple of years ago, we're flipping through cable, and we were like on the TV guide. Like, you know, the digital TV guide on the cable. And he goes down to looking at the shows, and one of them said Swamp People. And he turns to me and he goes, 5 years I would have turned this on, but I'm sure this is probably some really bad reality show. Because 5 years ago, you'd be like, dude, there's a show about swamp people, monsters coming out of the muck. But it had gotten to a point where now we just all know that is some reality show. Anyway, so Swamp People, it's a reality show. He said, back to the quote here, he said, Troy being he said if I sent this letter out, he would take a power drill to my shin bone. Okay, that's gross. He would take a power drill to my shin bone and suck the marrow from my bones, kind of like a spinal tap. I would imagine the amount of suction you would have to suck the marrow out of a living man's bones would be enough to, like, pump up a car tire. Like, to be like, that's it, Donald. Put the drill down, and then you're holding up his ankle, and you're like, it's eating time. I don't think it works like that. I don't think your marrow is made of spaghetti noodles. I don't think your juicy, meaty bone part will just come out like it's from a Play-Doh factory. But anyways, he threatened. Now, to be fair, I've made threats. Been like, dude, I'll cut out your liver and make you eat it. I've made threats like that were obviously not possible. But anyways, a power drill to... So maybe he's being hyperbolic. Maybe he's speaking in hyperbole. And anyways, so I would say you want to drill him in with the shin bone and suck the marrow from my bones, kind of like a spinal tap. One of the worst things you can do to a clone besides burning. We'll get to burning in a bit. This is going to be a very long episode. And then back to the letter. I said the letter will be going out. I have to escape this place. And so he did just that. So he actually does suck the marrow out of his shin bones. It was excruciatingly painful. Everyone just watched slackjaw in the crowd. I'm assuming that Donald has never met Troy Landry in real life. He must have watched the show Swamp People one day and had what seems to, because he talks about dreams. He talks a lot about dreams. What I'm thinking is, I think he does have some sort of mental issue, but I'm thinking he must have these weird dreams and he's building these connections. He might have seen, Troy Landry is not cream of the crop. Troy Landry is not sitting there next to Queen Elizabeth and Beyoncé and being like, you know what I could go for right now? Some shin meat. Yeah, let me at him. Like, he's not even A-list among reality stars. He's probably a lovely person. I don't know him. But you know what? He's not even a Kardashian or on the Hills or anything like that. He's a swamp person. He's a swamp person. So the fact that he can hobnob with the most powerful people on the planet is ridiculous in and of itself. And then he goes on to make all these other horrible allegations about Troy Landry. Anyway, so he does decide to keep doing this letter. And Troy Landry says, you got to stop it or next time I'm going to do it to your pelvic bone. And he did it. And then he got the meat sucked out of his pelvic bone as well. He said that he did the pelvic bone every day. Sucked the meat out of his pelvic bone every day. Troy Landry, star of Swamp People. So I'm thinking this guy is had a night. I don't know if now he's still having nightmares about Troy Landry holding him down and sucking the meat out of his pelvic bone. Anyways, so that's who we're talking about here. That's not the only encounter he's had with a celebrity, though. We can get down to here. Here's another quote. Fifi Dobson, I have no idea who that is. Fifi Dobson and Kurt Russell. I know who that is, the actor. So he writes in this letter, Fifi Dobson and Kurt Russell told me specifically to include in my letter that they don't like the place and didn't torture me. Then said not to mention them, but I just have. What? Hey man, can you write a letter and say that Kurt Russell, didn't molest you and drill the meat out of your shin bones? Oh, but don't use my name. Why are you asking me to put you in the letter? But anyways, I love this part. Mila Kunis. He spells it Kunitz. It's Kunis. Mila Kunis. And I'm not knocking him on his spelling at one point he calls it Jean-Benet Ramsey. And I'm not, whatever. I'm not going to knock him on the spelling. But I'm going to point it out and make fun of him. I don't think that makes him crazy. I think everything else does. Mila Kunis from That 70s Show. Mila Kunis from That 70s Show recently stabbed me a bunch of times. This apparently really happened, guys. Now, I said I don't believe in the allegations against Troy Landry. I do believe Mila Kunis did this. Mila Kunis from That 70s Show recently stabbed me a bunch of times while I was rendered immobile for saying she's a slimy scumbag for hanging out with these people and saying she has enormous eyeballs and looks like a lemur. Then begged me not to mention her, then said she doesn't want to go to the clone zone anyway, and then she left, her body going limp and looking dead. She was gone. Now, I'm sure that Mila Kunis, famous actress Mila Kunis, was walking around and he goes, hey, lemur, hey, isn't your next movie Ice Age? And she's like, and she starts stabbing him. You slimy scumbag. I don't even like the clone zone. That 100% happened. That is the only part of Donald Marshall's story I will believe. Does she have enormous eyeballs? I actually like big eyes. My favorite thing is girls who wear giant sunglasses. There have been a lot of girls that I've met they have giant sunglasses on. I was like, hey, what's up? And then eventually they take them off and I'm like, oh. Of course you have to take them off. You're not going to shower in them. I love those big bug eye sunglasses. Anyways, so, but she may or may not have giant eyeballs, but she's, I saw, what was Book of Eli? I think that's real. I never liked That 70s Show. So that's neither here nor there. The next celebrity, I love it because, and this really, how long has this episode gone on for? Long. We're going to be wrapping it up soon. The interesting thing is a lot of conspiracy theorists have an obsession with celebrity. You do have some who don't. 9/11 conspiracy theorists, flat earthers, not so much. But with Illuminati conspiracy theorists, I should say, there seems to be an obsession with celebrity and fame and power. Flat Earth, 9/11, you don't really have that. But with Illuminati, it seems to be they have something I don't have, therefore they must be doing something that I wouldn't dare to do. It's not because I haven't pushed myself hard enough to succeed, or I've just been unlucky, or I haven't visualized my success, or a combination of the three. It's that they must have had access to something, or done something that I would never do. So I'm actually more morally good since I'm not famous. Very weird thing, because a lot of his stuff has to do with celebrities. We're going to go back onto here. Steven Spielberg. Here we go. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas members. That's what it says. George Lucas members. It's not George Lucas. It's actually his member. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas members. George had them, this is so funny. George had them light me on fire for the end of his movie, Revenge of the Sith. Said he wanted Hayden Christensen to scream realistically. Hayden watched me, listened to me scream and groan in pain, and copied the sounds exactly. He knows all about it. As does Natalie Portman, and a quarter of the cast. Not all of them, just 25%. Just 25% of the cast of Revenge of the Sith. Why? Only 25? Who are the other 75% who have no idea about the clone zone? And also, again, I love Hayden Christensen to death. I think he's a really, really good actor. I think he got His shot to fame was the prequel movies, and people hate the prequel movies, so people don't really give him a shot, but I loved Jumper. I loved, what was that one he did? Shattered Glass. I think he's a really good actor. He's not, again, he's above Swamp People. He's above Swamp People, but he's not Queen Elizabeth, Beyoncé level either. So the fact that he's getting introduced into the clone zone, is utterly ridiculous. The fact that you would take a clone and set it on fire and then bring in a young actor and say, I want you to scream like him. You could just, go to Live Leak. And he didn't really scream in Revenge of the Sith. He just kind of rolled around on the dirt for a bit. Maybe that's the director's cut. Maybe they edited that scene out. But, this was all labeled Part 1 on Facebook. Part 1. And apparently there was a Part 2 coming out that was going to reveal even more. And what's interesting is it never did. So did he die? Was he taken out by the Illuminati? No, he's still active. He still has a Twitter, a YouTube channel. It doesn't seem to be updated that much. The Twitter was last updated, I think, in March. So where do we stand with this? There's two other little things I want to talk about real quick. Because again, he's fairly popular in this world. In this clone world. And everything I read you is bonkers, right? None of that stuff really makes sense, but a lot of people read that and go, I knew it. Because they don't trust celebrities anyways. They already believe that these people are successful, they must have done something evil to get there. And when someone comes out, no matter how ludicrous the claims were, people believe it. And it's shocking to me. But again, I used to believe in conspiracy theories. Nothing this lame. But I used to believe in more conspiracy theories than I do now. But there's forums. There's a lot of talk of him on forums, stuff like that. Eventually, his sister pops in. Someone gets a hold of one of his sisters. Named Joy Melanson Geyser is his sister. Sister-in-law. And this is what she wrote. My brother-in-law has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia for several years now. We no longer wish to have any communication with him. I'm well aware what Donnie is saying. The RCMP, he's Canadian, so a lot of his conspiracy theories took place in Canada, so that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, have been notified, are very familiar with him, and all organizations that I am involved with are also aware of his stories. I have no doubt he believes what he says. It is a symptom of his illness. Now, you could say that could be a troll, someone could be imitating his sister-in-law. That's what I thought when I first read that comment on a forum. I go, oh, someone's just imitating that. I think it's interesting because you can tell how lucid that was. It is real because Donnie, or Donald, actually ended up responding to that comment. This is what was written. Joy Geyser is and let me say this too. Joy Geyser, she is a private citizen, so this definitely is not, I'm not badgering her at all. This is what he says about her. Joy Geyser is a host. She is not my sister-in-law. She married someone I thought was my half-brother, but we aren't even related. So there is some sort of connect. He is admitting that she has some sort of family connection to him. So he could have come out and said, I have no idea who this woman is. Now he can say, well, it's my half-brother, but we're not really related, da-da-da-da. Anyways, it is someone who he knows personally, and probably is a sister-in-law. She married someone I thought was my half-brother, but we aren't even really related. My father wasn't his as was thought. Her and her ex-husband and a few of their kids attend the cloning center and get really gross. She tortured me herself with a power drill. So, there are people out there who know him personally who say this guy has some mental problems. He goes on to say, in Canada, if you have mental problems, you have to take medication. I'm not taking medication. There you go. Therefore, I don't have mental problems. There is one weird thing about this whole story. One weird thing. And I don't know how it fits in. He pointed it out, and I was like, whatever. I rolled my eyes and put up a big W sign. I'm like, whatever. And then I went to look at it, and I was like, that is weird. Very weird. Very weird. That's my Kermit impression. Everyone says I sound like Kermit anyways, but I can actually do a Kermit impression. The Megadeth album, which he wrote, by the way. That song you like? You're welcome. Megadeth album, The World Needs a Hero. There's an album cover of a skeleton busting out of a human body. And he goes, I was the model for that album cover. That was me. And I was like, what? Whatever. I mean, I get to that part after reading tons and tons of... There is so much written about this guy that I probably will revisit him when I have more time to look into this, more of his nonsense, but maybe not. I think we might have covered it all. But anyways, Megadeth album cover, there's a skeleton jumping out of a guy. And he goes, I was the model for that album cover. And I was like, no, you weren't. And I'm reading this after I'm reading about Swamp People and Mila Kunis looking like a lemur and all this sort of stuff. And so I go and I look at the album cover. And then there's like a photo of him next to the photo of the album cover. It looks like him. It looks like this random guy who's saying that he was connected to the music industry. It looks like him. Now, to be fair, there's 7 billion humans on the planet, and I'd say probably 80% of them all look like each other. People get me confused for people all the time. I have a very universal look. I've walked up to people in restaurants and go, dude, we look the same. Isn't this weird? They're always like, what? No, please go away. I'm eating. I'm like, no, look it. Take a picture with me. We look the same. But it is weird. If he had found a photo of himself, like as an astronaut, and he's like, look, I was also an astronaut, you'd be like, yeah, it doesn't fit with the theme of you being a musician. But the fact that he has some sort of psychological issue believing that he's part of the music industry, and then an album comes out in 2001, and it looks like him, is bizarre. And we talked earlier about how people age. People change over the years. The album came out in 2001. There's video of him from like 2015, so about 13, 14 years after that. He looks the same. He looks like he hasn't aged in the past decade. I believe Donald Marshall has these dreams or these visions, whatever you want to call them, where he's in this gladiator pit and he's having the bone marrow sucked out of him by Troy Landry. I believe that Donald Marshall has these weird delusions that make him think that he wrote all of these songs. When he hears these songs on the radio and there's one line that reminds him of some experience that he imagined, he then retroactively remembers writing the song. I believe that Donald Marshall has these beliefs. And other than rational thought being a rational human being, I can't prove that his stories aren't true. I don't believe they are. I don't believe there are. I think they're all made up, but I can't prove them. Other than plot holes like how does he keep getting out of the cloning facility beginning in the first place, and the ability for humans to clone each other, and Troy Landry hanging out with Queen Elizabeth. There's a lot of plot holes. But the one piece of physical evidence that he actually can show us is oddly compelling. Now again, let me reiterate, I do not believe that Donald Marshall is actually a clone gladiator who wrote the greatest songs of all time. But he might have been the model for the album cover of a Megadeth album. And if he was a model for this album cover in 2001, compared to what he looks like today, and he looks the same, he might be a clone. Now, I'm not saying he is. But either he ages incredibly slowly, which is fine, because a lot of people age incredibly slowly, and his last piece of evidence is also debunked. Or, somewhere just a few miles underneath our feet, is row after row after row of Donald Marshall clones. And while we sit up here and we laugh and we make fun of this story, another little vial could be opening up right now. And a young, disoriented man is being led down a dark hallway to the cheers of the rich and famous, ready for more clone blood to be spilled in the clone zone. deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. Twitter is @deadrabbitradio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.